Welcome everyone to the Q&A session for our upcoming course, Advanced Qigong to Release Stress, the 9-week journey to Zhang Fu Gong practices to supercharge your immunity and vitality. I'm Lisa Bonis, and I'm really happy to be hosting this Q&A conversation for the Shift Network, where we'll explore the teachings of Daisy Lee and address questions about her upcoming 9-week course, Advanced Qigong to Release Stress, which begins Monday, June 29th. And a little later, I'll explain how you can participate in the course, even if it doesn't fit your time schedule. You can't attend the live sessions, that won't be a problem. But first, I want to introduce our guest. Daisy Lee is a respected leader in the Qigong world with more than 20 years of teaching experience. She's certified as a Level 3 Advanced Qigong instructor and clinical practitioner by the National Qigong Association of America. A past board member of the International Qigong Science Association in Beijing, she lectures and conducts workshops and instructor trainings internationally with a specialty in women's health. Her signature program, Radiant Lotus Qigong, is now taught in 13 countries, and the accompanying DVD series, Beginner Qigong for Women 1 and 2, and Qigong for Women became bestsellers on Amazon within their first month of their release. And in just a few minutes, we're going to open up for your questions. But first, I want to welcome Daisy, who's going to begin our time together by telling us a little bit about Zhang Fu Gong and leading us in an opening movement. Welcome, Daisy. It's great to be with you again.
Thank you, Lisa. Great to see everyone. And very, very pleased to be here on this day for sharing Zhang Fu Gong with you. It is a really incredible program because it works on the internal organs and makes the body more efficient in processing all the stuck energy, whether it's physical or emotional, that moves through the body. So what I thought I'd do, because we're talking about digesting this energy and digesting in general some of the things that are happening in our world right now. So I thought I'd go back to this movement for digestion and go through the easy one with you and then share with you what the next stage, the advanced program, will also incorporate. So I'm going to just step back a little bit. We start with our palms facing the lower abdomen. And the simplified movement is like so. It's like we're sweeping away energy from the abdomen and we come up and around. The shoulders are dropped and low, as you can see, and you form this nice round basket. From here, you press out and roll out from the pinkies following the small intestine channel. And it's like Spider-Man or woman. And you roll in one finger at a time. All the way in, you bring in the fists now towards the chest. And at the solar plexus level, release. Inhale to the sides. And exhale down. Yeah, so that's just a movement that can help with moving energy through the small intestines. And in the advanced program, you're going to have another movement that looks like this. You still follow the small intestine channel, and it's like you're waving, hi there, and have a seat as the fingers come in, but following the small intestines channel, and it's just moving through this field, keeping the shoulders dropped. Yeah, clearing, welcoming new energy in and rolling the fingers out. And then you would do that with the opposite hand as well. Yeah, so it's, hi there, won't you have a seat? And we're just playing within this field. And then later, as you get more advanced, you would be working both hands simultaneously. And that's why this is a little more advanced, because you're opening up the channels, but you're using both hands and getting the mind accustomed to, alternating palms, alternating hands, and almost like an alternating current. So later, although it's not part of this program, you would do this movement, which is a lotus flower, and you would play. But this is how complex it can get, but we keep it very simple in this program, and you'll be able to support your digestive system, but also support all other functions. And that's the beauty of Zhang Fu Gong. And in this program, this advanced program, you'll have the bundle of the introductory program to Zhang Fu Gong. And what we'll be doing together in the 9 weeks is going through the 30-minute routine. So it's going to be very active, active in the sense that we're going to engage your body in movement. And even though the movements are slow and gentle and very relaxed, they're still going to move energy through the body and the joints. So it's very different than other types of programs like aerobics, where you're moving at a quicker speed and getting your heart rate up. You can do all of these things without doing any damage to the joints and move energy through the channels of the body. And we'll be incorporating color, as you see behind me, visualizations and meditations, as well as sound healing. So we're using our own voice to access that ability to speak your truth, but also to bring energy and movement into the complementary organs in the body. So that's just a kind of sneak preview of what we'll be sharing, or what I'll be sharing in the 9 weeks to follow. So now I think it would be great if I can answer any of your questions, and let's see what Lisa has in the cooker.
All right. Thank you, Daisy. We have the rest of our time together to dive into your questions for Daisy as we prepare for her upcoming course. Again, that's called Advanced Qigong to Release Stress. And again, it begins Monday, June 29th. And if you want to check out the website, sort of follow along with us, learn more about the 9-week course, you can visit zhangfugongflow.com, and that's all spelled out down there at the bottom of your screen in case you're wondering how to spell that. And that's where you'll see the full description. So let's go ahead and get into some Q&A. If you have a question for Daisy, go ahead and type it in. I'll be happy to pass them along. But in the meantime, let me ask something. As I was watching you do the movements, I could actually feel, but I'm sitting in my chair, I'm not doing it with you, but I could still feel my energy moving along with you. But that's because I've been doing energy work for decades. But I remember when I first started doing this, I didn't feel anything, and I felt kind of dumb doing these movements and wondering, does this really work? So I'm wondering, can you sort of address the beginner mindset of not understanding how these flowing movements are actually improving the health and well-being of your body, mind, spirit? A big question, I know, but let's see if we can talk about that.
This is the beauty of Qigong is, it's a slow, gentle process. So it's never going to be anything that pushes our bodies too hard. We're learning to listen and tune into the body signals. If at the very beginning you don't feel anything, it's very interesting because I didn't, for example, when I first started Qigong, I used to have very cold hands and feet. And part of it was I was living in Canada in the winter. But I started playing with these movements, and it's actually very similar to the small intestine movement, but I was playing with this imagined ball of the sun in my palms. And as I started turning and rotating the joints and seeing in my mind's eye this energy growing, it started to actually warm up my palms. Not only did it warm up my palms, it started to, because of the increased circulation, it warmed up the extremities. So my feet started to get warm, my hands started to get warm, and I no longer needed, not to say I didn't need mitts, but I never had cold hands or feet again. So that was an interesting byproduct or benefit of the smooth movement of qi moving through the body. And so when we're working with energy, especially in Qigong, we're talking about subtle energy. Here's a gross level of energy that you can access, like through aerobics, for instance. Not to say aerobics is bad, but it's a very different type of program, and it's harder on the joints. It speeds up your heart rate, yes, and eventually you'll come into a relaxation state. But what Qigong does very differently is that in a very balanced way, it's bringing equilibrium, it's bringing harmony into the body. The channels, the meridians of the body start to open. And so without almost knowing it yourself initially, a lot of times what we find is that other people notice that something has changed within you. Your skin might have improved. You start to gently start losing weight or balance weight for someone who is very, very thin. And as part of it is because the blood, the lymph, the flow of energy is moving, coursing more smoothly through the channels and in the interstitial fluids between the cells even. So that is part of it, Lisa, it's a process of engaging the body, mind, and the spirit. We, in this program, we're going to engage color as well to support the sensory perception. We're going to use more of the five senses probably than in any other system that you've used or practiced with. And so it's multidisciplinary, multicolored, multifaceted in so many ways. And what ultimately happens is that your body's natural immunity starts to speak. It starts to have a voice of its own and directs the energy properly for you. So the overall health is enhanced, the immunity is increased. And that's the greatest benefit. Sometimes a person will be working on one health project and they find the benefit not only addressing that one thing, but systemically, through the body. So when we have the systemic health, all these other symptoms start to alleviate, reduce, or even disappear completely. So that's how Qigong is such a powerful system. Qigong in general, but Zangfu Gong in particular is very specific to what we call the Zangfu, are the organs. The Zang, are the yin organs, and the Fu are the yang organs. So the Zangfu are the organ systems and their function. And that's the key, is how well are your organs functioning? How open are the channels? And it doesn't matter where you start. If you're very blocked and you've had a lot of emotional stress on top of a physical ailment or an injury, this program is going to be perfect because it's going to slowly tease out the body's healing capacity. Yeah, it's always done to your body's ability. So if, for example, like some of my students that were at Johns Hopkins Hospital, they were bedridden or they were wheelchair bound. They had IVs. And so the whole routine can be done seated. And so it really depends on each individual. There's no real limitations. If there's any precautions, I usually tell people at the very beginning of class. So Lisa, that's just a little bit. I know, sometimes people say, well, I don't feel anything yet. And you watch for that inside. You start to sense what's happening. It can be subtle because we're dealing with, we're not always dealing with ailments. We're sometimes dealing with Olympic level athletes who are increasing their performance and focus. And so they're not sick, but they have a different aim with this program. So, Lisa, I hope that answers, some of the question that you have.
Yeah. Yes, thank you so much for that. The next question I would like to bring up, this is the most frequently asked question coming in from all directions. People are wondering, because this is an advanced course and you did previously teach a 7-week Zongfu Gong course, people are asking, how do I take the advanced course without taking the previous one? So let's go ahead and talk about how that works, because as you mentioned earlier, the first course is bundled in. So let's address that for new people.
Okay. Lisa, you're right. And to everyone, the bundle of the 7-week course is included in this package. So that's a great benefit. You can start that anytime once you download that. But what is so beautiful about our time together is that every Monday we're going to be going through the routine that was taught in the first level of practice. And so that's almost 30 minutes of movement, gentle, flowing movement synchronized with breath. So you will start to get it. And, that's a regular part of the routine. And then we start to add layers with either the color therapy or the visualizations, the sound healing. And so we immediately start with the routine. It's because Qigong's movements are very slow and gentle, really anyone can learn it. And so it won't be at such a pace that you're racing to keep up. You're going to learn it and deepen it through the practice each week. And if you need the previous program to refer to, you'll have that in hand. So you won't miss out. If you want to study deeper, then you can go back to that. But I'll be able to answer questions that you have in person because the whole program is live. So that is the way it's packaged. Just so you know that, you shouldn't feel afraid that it's going to bypass you or that you're going to miss anything. This is part of the experience. And each time we do something, it's like it's new anyway. So it makes you more in the moment. And that's how I think the best responses to life come that way. We're in the moment. Whatever happens, it's almost like how martial artists respond. They train, but it's to actually deal with what's happening in the moment. And so Qigong, with what's happening outside in our community and in our world at this time, we're doing it moment by moment, breath by breath. And what starts to happen is that you, in your state of peace and tranquility from doing the program, you start to respond in a different way. So at the very base level, I feel, and certainly the students have shared this with me, that they feel a sense of peacefulness amidst the madness that is going on outside of this screen. And I think that all of us can have access to that. One of the very important teachings is about vertical alignment, grounding our energy to the earth and feeling the substantiveness of the earth and lining up through the core energy centers of the body and connecting to a star point in the sky. And that visualization, that visual has really helped people move through chaos in a very different way. And I feel that now more than ever, this is relevant and important. That we have to understand what is going to be constructive. When is a good time to wait? To act. How do I get my own body healthy and efficient so that I can respond to any kind of situation that I'm confronted by? And that is the other opportunity of Qigong, is not only that you're going to have very good health, possibly radiant health. But the way you manage emotional situations or confrontations, or fear or panic, these emotions that might be building up in the body, this is one of the best ways you can do and use to help calm things down. There was a recent faculty member on shift who said that it takes 90 seconds for an emotion to process through your body. And if it doesn't get processed, it gets stuck. And it gets stuck in key points that you're vulnerable to. So everybody is different. So if you have shoulder issues, what we call projects, if you have a shoulder project or you have a knee project, then rather than getting stuck at that juncture, the very breathing of Qigong, the way you breathe in Qigong, is going to help with that unsticking. And it won't have that grasping energy. The emotions don't get stuck in the knee or the shoulder because they get shaken out. One of the routines part of the routine that we do is the shaking routine, which is what all animals do when they've had a fright. The lion was chasing them. And so, in that moment of fight or flight, if they froze, then the energy would be contained and they would envelop that negative emotion. And so with Qigong, you're moving it through, you're churning it out of the body and releasing it so that the body can have vibrant health, the emotions can be healthy. You have the clarity of mind to address a situation in a sane way. And so that's the beauty of Qigong, is on these multiplicity of levels. And with this program, you have the opportunity to really explore and investigate, how do I become really not only a healthier person, but a better person, more loving and self-accepting, less judgmental, less fearful, and at the same time, balance my blood pressure and improve my immune system. And so this is why, Lisa, that Qigong and Zangfu Gong is so important, I think, I would say it's the ideal type of exercise for anyone. That's why in China, you have people who might start as young as 3, if they have parents that really know about this, but is often introduced in elementary school, some level of Qigong. And many of my, not that I have had hundreds or anything, but my key teachers in China are over 100. A couple of them have passed on. They were at 115, 107. But all of them are and were in very radiant health right up to the end. I think sometimes, you face what you face, and death is part of life. And we who are here always cling on, and we want more time. So this is why Qigong is considered a longevity exercise. And that's why probably so many of these teachers, as well as their students, tend to live longer. But the large portion of this is because of, how do you reduce stress? If you can reduce the stress in your life, then the energy in the body is moving more smoothly and you relax more into just being present. So those are my thoughts, Lisa.
Thank you so much. This is so helpful. Here's a question from Trudy, who says, I find it hard to get out of my monkey mind while doing the movements and just be with the breathing and flow of energy. What do you suggest?
Trudy, the part of learning something new at the very beginning, there might be a little bit of retentiveness because we're trying to hold on to the information. That's why a visual medium is so helpful, actually, because you have the visual that you can follow without overthinking. And do your best not to judge yourself. Even if your teacher is, doing it a certain way, you might have different, cricks and cracks, or anomalies in the body that might prevent you from doing something completely the way that you see it. So one must be really gentle with oneself and not judge harshly. Do the best you can. Listen, because it's actually better to do something, slowly and listen than it is to try and copy and, do the movement without consciousness, without awareness. So the flow is really interesting because once you stop the monkey mind by just copying the flow and you start to breathe more naturally, the flow comes in. And so you have these varieties of ways, whether it's referring to the video later, because you receive that, or looking at the notes later in case you need clarification. And so there's a variety of ways to help yourself, but a lot of times I think we get in our own way. And, we stop ourselves from trying because our mind is just so engaged, right? It's taking over the dominant faculty. If we drop the energy into the heart center or even lower into the lower dantian, into the belly region, we automatically ground. So the energy isn't up here, but it actually descends and goes lower into the body. And that will also help with the monkey mind. So there will be ways that, tricks that you can use to help with the excessive thinking. And as I always say with Qigong, be gentle on yourself. It's not a competition. And luckily, you're in your own living room, so you don't have to compare yourself to anyone. Okay. Thanks for that question, Truly.
That's good to know, and thank you for that answer. And for those of you who are just joining us, we're here with Daisy Lee, learning about her upcoming course, Advanced Qigong to Release Stress, which begins Monday, June 29th, and you can log on to zongfugongflow.com to get all the details and to register. So let's go ahead and get back into questions. We've got quite a few coming in now. We've got Joel wondering, is Tai Chi similar? What's the difference between Qigong and Tai Chi?
Well, Tai Chi actually came from Qigong. Tai Chi was conceived as a martial art initially. It's become a health practice, a healing practice, self-movement practice. And but because it's perceived, its initial inception was perceived as a martial art, there is more precision. So the way you hold your hand, where you're looking, everything has a reason. There's a lot more forgiveness in Qigong because we're more concerned about the flow of energy in the body. With Qigong, you don't need a big expansive space. You can just be right here in your 3 feet of space, in your room. So it doesn't require a lot of space that way. You don't need to do low stances. And again, we're always listening to our bodies because part of the training is sensitivity. So it's sensitivity training, tuning into your body's needs, following me, but also following what your body is allowing you to do that day. So the martial aspect, although Tai Chi has become more of a health exercise, and it depends on whether the teacher is teaching in that angle or not, because sometimes they don't even teach the martial aspects. And it's so the other thing, if there's more differences I could point out. So Tai Chi is about 1,500 years old, and there's a difference about 3,500 years because Qigong is thought to be about 5,000 years old. So it's withstood the test of time and gone through all these, refinements. But why it's so popular and why well over 100 million people practice it worldwide is because of what it does to the body. It's a form of self-care that helps you not have to rely so much on outside sources. It can reduce medications and drugs, but you would have to consult with your doctor because it improves health so much that after a time you might not need certain things like that. It improves your immunity and improves mental clarity. It improves mobility. And so for so many reasons, I'm sure that you've done a little bit of research in order to be here. You would find that Qigong is just one of those really ideal systems of movement that synchronizes breath and movement, and in this case also sound healing using your voice, color therapy, visualizations, and meditations. So thank you for that question, John.
All right, thank you. I was wondering the same thing, so thank you for answering that one. This question from Lorraine, you've already touched on this a little bit earlier, but let's expand it a bit. Lorraine says, I've gained a lot of weight due to quarantine eating and lack of exercise. Can what you'll be teaching help me with this, or do I need to find a practice dedicated to this specific topic?
Well, Lorraine, I can tell you that many of my students, especially when I was living on Kauai, they used it as part of a weight loss program. You're not going to lose 10 pounds in a day. This Qigong doesn't work like that. You may lose 5 to 7 pounds a month. So it's a slow but gentle process. And what is happening is that as your body becomes more efficient at detoxification, which is a significant benefit of this program, that the body starts to release what no longer serves your body. And so it starts to let go of even emotional energy, physical fat, energetics that get stuck in the joints or stuck around the belly, and you start getting slimmer. That much I can tell you, that a number of my students have shared that with me, that they gently lose weight and they like themselves better. I know with quarantine it's hard because with the stress, there's this stress eating as well. And so, the habits, the comfort foods that like chips that I love, you would reach for that because it's there. And so what might be an interesting experiment is if you've had enough food and instead of that, you might drink some water or you might do some Qigong. It's a different replacement. Maybe it doesn't taste as good as the chips, but maybe it does. The taste of Qi. And so I think one has to try it. I can tell you that myself, my siblings are a little heavier, but I've always done Qigong. They don't practice Qigong unless they need to. They use it as almost like medicine. And so Qigong has that impact. I think it balances your weight. And if you practice regularly, it starts to keep you at a very stable weight. And then what no longer serves the body can be released. So that's, the long and short of it. Lorraine, I hope that you give this a try and see what it does for you. And sometimes when we feel better about ourselves, we also start to let go of the weight, and whether it's quarantine weight or weight from eating. Yeah, so it just improves the efficiency of the organs to process.
Okay, thank you for that one. This one doesn't have a name attached, but the question is there an exercise to help increase our energy?
Oh, Qigong. There's all kinds of movements. Definitely, Qigong in general will increase your energy. But if you want to learn something that's very quick, that will increase your energy right here and right now, one of the quickest things you can do is tap the thymus gland. So if you were to, just bring your hand up with the elbow at your side, and just right there in the center, this is where you would tap. They call it the wake up point, and it's an energizing point, but also an emotional release point. So when you feel stressed, and when you feel like your energy is really sagging, one of the things you can do is just tap here for 1 minute. Okay, tap here, tap the kidneys and the back, and those are two ways that you can actually quickly pick up your energy. So if you're getting sleepy on the road, and you rather than cranking down the window, maybe you could crank the window too, but also tap the thymus gland. Yeah, it's also responsible for increasing the number of natural killer cells for immunity. So it's a really great point to know on the quick. Yeah, hope that's helpful.
I think so, yes. Thank you. This question is from Mo, who says, after 9 weeks of teachings, how will we know what routine to do on a daily basis? Will you offer a definitive recorded practice start to finish that we can do every day? Or will we be making up our own hodgepodge with what we've learned over the weeks?
You can do either. Excuse me. You'll have a framework. We have the 30-minute practice of form, but we're going to layer on a few more advanced movements. And then from the choices of the sound healing, you can do sound healing as a complete practice unto itself, for instance. If you want color therapy, you can incorporate that or come back here to one of the videos that you'll see that uses that. That's the beauty of Qigong, I feel, is that there are some systems that say this is the only way to do it. There's not a lot of flexibility because the teacher has created it this way, and it's a lineage that goes from one generation to another to another. We have some of those in place, but this system, you can draw what is relevant and what resonates with you. So that's very important, because perhaps sound healing isn't a comfortable thing for you to do because there's many people in the house or there's thin walls between the neighbors. It may or may not be, what makes you feel good. So you draw from the other practices and you plug it in and say, this week I'm going to practice this way. And so human beings, just by their nature, tend to get bored easily, especially if there's that cultivation of going into a meditative state hasn't been cultivated. So that boredom factor, it's just part of the grumble theory in psychology. That's part of the human being human. And so to be able to draw from different elements within the system, you can make it your own. And so I can't tell you what that is for you, because if you love sound and being able to use your voice to express yourself, then you would do the whole sound healing sequence once you've learned it. And that can be its own separate thing. But I always highly encourage you to do movement, because we don't move enough. And if there are places where there is lockdown, or you're still inside more than you're outside, even if you're outside and you're by the beach or in the forest, I would encourage you to do that, that it would be wise to move. We have become more sedentary, and with having to stay in place, it's even more important to move, and to move gently and consciously, to do it in a way that feels good in your body so that you will do it again and again. So that's what I hope to bring to you in those 9 weeks, and to give you options and choices that you and your wisdom will be able to choose from. Okay, thanks for that question.
All right, thank you. Looking at the clock here, we have time for a few more questions, but before we get into those, I'll go ahead and give a few details about the course itself, because people are, of course, asking about that. Once again, the course is called Advanced Qigong to Release Stress, and this is going to be a really powerful 9-week journey with Daisy, where you'll deepen your Zong Fu Gong practice with sound healing, color visualizations, deep meditations, and powerful movements to help you detox and heal for a balanced, joyful life. And the 9-week course takes place on Mondays at noon Pacific, beginning Monday, June 29th. And as I mentioned earlier, if you can't join us live because not everybody's available at that specific time, that's fine. You won't miss the teachings. You will receive audio and video recordings, which you can keep forever. You'll get transcripts and all course handouts on your course homepage. Also, the Shift Network offers a no-risk money-back guarantee on our courses, giving you a full 2 weeks until July 13th, in this case, to make sure that you're happy. And as an added option, all participants are welcome to connect in a private Facebook community group so you can connect with one another. And also, as we mentioned earlier, because this is an advanced course which builds upon core teachings from Daisy's previous 7-module course, when you purchase the full 9-week intensive, you will get access to the 7-week course as well. Also, everyone who registers receives the Advanced Qigong to Release Stress bonus collection. And first, you will receive a video dialogue with Daisy and Master Robert Peng entitled The Path of Mastery: Key Influences That Shaped Qigong Master Robert Peng's Life. And then you'll get a video teaching from Daisy called Mango Tree Wisdom: How to Stay in Place and Receive Everything You Need. Next, you'll receive a video dialogue with Daisy and Dondi Dahlin entitled Qigong, an Ancient Healing Tool for Modern Times. And you will also receive an audio teaching from Daisy called Empowering Our Third Ear: The Power of Deep Listening in Qigong. And when you register by midnight Pacific on Tuesday, June 23rd, you will receive this extra gift, and that is a video dialogue with Dr. Effie Chow and Sharon Rose entitled The Miracle of Qigong: Its History, Future, Science, and Art. So, Daisy, let's talk, before we get back into Q&A, what are you most looking forward to sharing in your new upcoming course?
Well, mostly I'm looking forward to meeting with the students and sharing this program with them, Lisa. I think of all the elements, it's not just the teaching, but really deeply connecting with the students and seeing how I can help and where the needs are, and to serve that need, and to show something that empowers their health and healing. And that's the greatest joy for me. Yeah.
All right. Thank you for that. We've also got a lot of people asking about sort of the formation of the format of the class itself. How long does it last? What's going to be the teaching, the Q&A, etc. And then how long is the actual practice? What's the average time daily that people should be practicing? The nitty-gritty details are what people are wondering about.
Okay. Well, we always start with the 30-minute practice, which is more movement-based. Even if someone is seated, they're still going to be able to do this, adjusted, of course. And then we're going to introduce probably a segment that will run about 10, 15 or so minutes long, of additional teaching. So if it's sound healing that day, then it will be that, in addition to perhaps a meditation. In total, there will be an hour of teaching, including the explanations and the discussion. or teaching that I'll share. Some people call it the Dharma talk. And so it'll be an hour of teaching, maybe 30 or 40 minutes even of movement or other elements. And then the Q&A is 30 minutes. And so afterwards, I'll address whatever questions you have. That time goes by really quickly. There's always good questions, and I'm always willing to answer. So that's the hour and a half that we have together. If you can't be there for any of it, remember, as Lisa had shared, that you'll be able to refer back to the video and any of the handouts that I have as well, and the transcript, of course. So that would take up all of that time.
Right. Okay, thank you. This question isn't specifically about Qigong, but it sort of is. We've got somebody here asking about how do you separate your the Qigong space from the rest of the home, the hustle and bustle. You mentioned a bit ago about if you've got loud neighbors, all that type of thing. How important is the actual atmosphere that you're doing your Qigong within, and what can you possibly do to improve it?
That's a good question. One of the things that I've heard from some students that they like to do is they put on headphones, and that creates more of a bubble for them to do their practice. At the same time, having said that, if you can be in a room where you have the quiet to do your practice, that's great. But if you don't, that's the reality that we're managing in our own homes and our own lives, especially if you have children. So one of the things that the practice itself teaches you is how to stay balanced and calm amidst the chaos. And in a few instances, I've had mothers or fathers that have had their children there, and they start doing the practice with them. So if they end up engaging in that way, that's perfect. Other than that, it is a practice to go into your core, into your own personal space. It's a mental as well as emotional process. As you get calmer and everything settles in your mind, your monkey mind, or the emotional body in the middle dantian, as you anchor your breath down into your lower body, then things start to change. And that's part of this practice, is how do we anchor our breath so that we're not way out there, too busy in the upper dantian, too emotional in the middle dantian, and how do we ground the energy into the center of the body and borrow energy from the gravity of the earth that's helping support us. Once you bring your awareness into these places, it changes how you reframe what is happening in your life. And it brings you that peace and tranquility that you're seeking. It's already within you. And so when the chaos is massive, you have to actually come back home to yourself. So that's how I would deal with it. That's how we manage and find tools that help us to manage better. Yeah, thanks for that question.
Thank you for that answer. Again, these are all very, very helpful. This next question is from Nazir, who says, I like the idea of using color. How would that apply to someone who is blind? But I would also like to add on top of Nazir's question, would you just talk a little bit about how you're going to be using color in your upcoming course?
Okay, both Lisa and Nazir. The color question is a very interesting one, especially for someone who is blind. We are such, viewers. We are glued to our screens. We are, using our eyes all the time. So what happens when someone is blind? You can use visualizations, and it really also depends what is the depth of blindness, because some people can still see light impressions of light. If you were to close your eyes and you were to pass your hand over your eyes, you'll still feel or see shadows. So perception, what often happens is if one perception, one sense organ is compromised in any way or missing, then it will be another one will compensate for it. So tactile senses might be more important, or listening skills, ante up just to support that. So if someone is blind and they're using this specifically for color, I don't know that I can really answer very well for that except through visualization. Color actually has a frequency. And, when, for example, if you saw someone, speaking of eyes, and they were dressed a certain way in a certain color, like all black, that can be very elegant. On the other hand, it can feel, depending on what your frame of reference is, it can feel really heavy. It could be that someone's working on a kidney project, and so the dark colors are being drawn into their lives. And so we're going to talk about the color references, what is helpful, what tonality of color is used for therapy, and how will it engage your feelings of upliftment, or how does it engage the support for the digestion system, the stomach and spleen, or how does the green color, being in a forest, not just like the color itself, but what kind of visualizations do you use to ignite the color reference inside the body? Because it's not just the actual physical. Sometimes it's, if you don't have the ability to see, then you have to engage this other capacity in the body. So that's what I can offer in terms of how to think about that. As I said, color is a very preferential thing, very unique to each individual, and sight is as well. We compensate for, anything that is missing. And we make it a strength instead of a weakness. We learn through Qigong, how do we turn this around? These rolling motions are all about how do we turn things around? How do we expand ourselves? Or how do we come inside? And so the symbolism is also in the movement. And the emotions are also in the color. So a little piece of it for you, Lisa, and the friends out there.
All right, yeah. Intriguing. Can't wait. Let's move to a completely different direction. There's no name attached to this one, but the question is, how does this course differ from your other Qigong courses? This person did your Radiant Lotus classes. So what's different this time?
Okay, thank you for that question. And thank you for having taken my women's program, which leads us to the answer, which is the Radiant Lotus Women's Qigong is very specifically a women's program that addresses hormonal health, reproductive health. And so there's a lot of focus also on emotional health in that one. And it's more hormone related. In this one, which is for Zang Fu Gong, is for both men and women, number one. It also has a very deep component to it that addresses emotional health, because the organs contain emotions and either the energy moves from and through those emotions and through that body part, or it gets stuck. And so the reflective organs that pertain, the Zangfu that pertain to that emotion, can be supported in clearing the energy out, whether it's through meditation or through movement, very specific movements that open up the meridians in the body. And so that is one of the significant differences. There are others, but the Zangfu focuses on organ function. So it's the functionality of the organs that we're trying to optimize. and opening up the energy pathways and meridians so that there is greater flow. When we have improved chi flow or optimum chi flow or movement, it's like rivers of light running through the body. And when that energy and the blood and lymph are free to flow, then there's less stagnation, or I would never say no stagnation, but certainly a lot less stagnation, and our health improves as a result. So that's why it's important to do this type of practice. It's self-care, and along the way, most people find I would say almost everyone seems to comment about feeling more peaceful in their bodies. In the last program, in the previous Zang Fu Gong program, one of the things that was noted was that the students often talked about having that sense of groundedness and peacefulness to manage what was happening with the pandemic. And I think that really moved me. We had healthcare workers, frontline workers that were using this program and had a different perspective from using it, from finding a kind of sense of neutral compassion so that they did the best they could, but they stayed in their alignment so that they could do the best they could. And sometimes what happens is when we feel for someone, we engage, and we're empathic especially, we engage so deeply that we fall into an energy that is not going to be helpful for that person or for yourself. And then you're both in the mess together rather than maintaining a sense of peace and balance so that you can do and be more for those around you as well. But ultimately, it comes back to yourself, because if you can find that balance and alignment within yourself, you become the embodied practitioner. You're embodying what you practice. And I think that's one of the most powerful things about Zang Fu Gong and the Qigong systems that I teach, whether it's the women's system or this one, is that when you live this in your life and not just practice with me for the hour on Monday, but you start to incorporate the philosophy, you incorporate the emotional healing, you incorporate the movement so that the joints stay loose and the muscles stay strong, you can't help but improve your health. And when you improve your health, your view of things, your perspective is improved. And so you become a positive force in the world. You become a positive lead energy. You lead without leading. You don't push people around or boss them around. You just lead by example. And I think that's what we can learn from this, is how to be in this body as a human being human. Yeah.
All right, beautifully stated. We are out of time. This has been, as usual, such a fantastic conversation. I want to thank our viewers for being with us today and for all of your terrific questions. Once again, Advanced Qigong to Release Stress begins Monday, June 29th. And again, please visit zongfugongflow.com. It's at the bottom of your screen, and that's where you can learn more and register. So, Daisy, what you were just talking about, you just demonstrated. I always feel so much better just even being in your virtual presence. You really do embody this, and it's infectious in a good way. Before we go, do you have any final words for our viewers?
Only that I'm so looking forward to seeing you on June 29th. And hopefully throughout the 9 weeks. But it's always a pleasure for me to share this work and to meet people through the Facebook page as well. So I want to thank you for your presence here and your questions. And thank you, Lisa, again, for being such a wonderful interviewer and support for these programs.
All right. And thank you again, Daisy. It's always a pleasure speaking with you. And once again, I'd like to thank everyone who joined us today. On behalf of all of us at the Shift Network, I wish you well and look forward to having you on this course or perhaps another one in the future. Have a great day, everyone.